The icy expanse stretched endlessly under the dim light of Jupiter, casting long shadows across the surface of Europa. Captain Elias Marin adjusted his visor, his gaze steady as he led his team toward the anomaly their scanners had detected days ago. With each step, his boots crunched over the frozen terrain, the sound absorbed into the eerie silence that blanketed the moon's surface. Around him, his team moved in silent formation, each one keenly aware of the significance of their mission and the risks it entailed. They had been stationed on Europa for weeks, initially tasked with setting up preliminary surveys and establishing a temporary base. But today was different. Today, they weren't just studying the icy moon. They were following readings that hinted at something extraordinary below the frozen surface. According to the data, there was a structure beneath the ice, something that didn't match any known natural formations. Dr. Xinyilan walked beside Captain Marin, her gaze alternating between the data streaming across her visor and the ice fields around them. She was a seasoned scientist, yet there was a spark in her eye that hinted at a mixture of excitement and unease. "The formations," she began, her voice calm but tense. "They're too uniform to be natural. This is something else entirely." Captain Marin nodded, the weight of their discovery settling heavily on his shoulders. "We'll proceed with caution," he said, scanning the horizon. "Whatever it is, we don't want any surprises." As they approached the designated site, a slope led them into a natural depression where they had used heavy diggers to expose the cavern below. The airlock doors of their temporary outpost hissed open, and the team moved into the enclosure, each one of them donning specialized excavation suits designed to handle the intense cold and protect them from potential exposure to unknown elements. The suits were equipped with enhanced life support systems and augmented visors, designed to relay environmental data back to their base on Earth. The descent into the chamber was deliberate. The walls of the tunnel shimmered with ice crystals, reflecting the beams from their helmets in dazzling arrays. Each step heightened the anticipation, as did the silence that only deepened the further they traveled. The atmosphere among the team grew heavier, charged with a mixture of excitement and tension. Whatever lay at the end of this descent was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. Captain Marin led the way, his light illuminating the vast, hollowed-out chamber ahead. He paused as he reached the threshold, sweeping his gaze across the space. In the center of the chamber hovered a massive spherical object, emitting a soft blue light that pulsed rhythmically, like the steady beat of a heart. The team held their breath as they took in the sight. The structure was unmistakably alien, and its presence here, buried beneath Europa's icy crust, raised a million questions. Dr. Lan approached carefully, her visor recording every detail. "It's warm," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This place is freezing, but the object, it's generating heat." Captain Marin's brow furrowed as he studied the sphere. "Let's keep our distance for now. We don't know what we're dealing with." He moved around the edge of the chamber, his gaze fixed on the pulsating sphere. "Dr. Lan, any preliminary theories?" Dr. Lan shook her head, mesmerized by the subtle patterns that seemed to shift across the surface of the object. "It's like it's responding to us, as if it's aware we're here." Captain Marin considered her words, a shiver running down his spine. "Let's document everything. We'll need to analyze this before making any moves." As they circled the object, Commander Liana Soliman, head of security, joined them, her posture alert and her eyes scanning every corner of the chamber. She was no stranger to high-stakes missions, yet something about this discovery set her on edge. "Captain, if this thing is as ancient as it seems, we might be dealing with tech beyond our understanding. We need to be prepared for anything." Captain Marin nodded. "Agreed. Let's maintain a safe perimeter. I don't want anyone getting too close until we have more data." Arjun Kapoor, their tech specialist, approached, his gaze locked on the sphere with an intensity that bordered on obsession. "Captain, if I could set up a basic scan, it might give us more insight into its structure." He gestured to his equipment, eyes flicking between Marin and the sphere. Captain Marin hesitated, weighing the risks. "Go ahead, but keep it non-invasive. We don't want to provoke any reactions." Arjun quickly set to work, his hands steady as he adjusted the scanner's settings. The device emitted a low hum, sending out waves that mapped the object's structure. The team waited in tense silence, each member riveted by the sight of the sphere and the potential revelations it held. As the scanner completed its cycle, Arjun reviewed the data, his brow furrowing. "This doesn't make sense. The structure inside isn't consistent. It's almost like it's alive." A murmur ran through the team. The thought was unsettling. An alien object that was not only warm but potentially sentient. The implications were vast, and Captain Marin could sense the shift in atmosphere. They were no longer dealing with a simple relic. This was something far more profound. Commander Soliman, ever vigilant, stepped closer to Marin, her voice low. If it's alive, or even partially sentient, we need to consider what that means for our mission. This is a discovery that could change everything. Captain Marin nodded, his mind racing. For now, our job is to observe. We report back to command and take it one step at a time. He turned to his team, the gravity of his words settling over them like a blanket. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. Let's make sure we don't compromise it, or ourselves. As they prepared to leave the chamber, a final pulse of light surged from the sphere, brighter and more intense than before. It washed over them, bathing the cavern in a warm, almost welcoming glow. Captain Marin's breath caught as he glanced at Dr. Lan, who seemed equally affected by the strange energy. In that moment, Captain Marin realized the weight of what they had found. This mission, once a simple survey, had become something far greater. They weren't just on Europa for research. They were standing at the threshold of a mystery, one that would test their courage, their loyalty, and their understanding of life itself. With a final glance at the alien heart pulsing softly in the center of the chamber, Marin gave the order to move out, his mind already racing with questions that had no easy answers. Back at the base, the team gathered in the dim glow of the control room, reviewing the data Arjun had collected on the alien artifact. Screens displayed an array of readings, flashing in sync with the pulsing light from the alien heart, which still loomed large in everyone's mind. Captain Marin stood at the front, his gaze fixed on the rhythmic patterns showing up on the monitors. Whatever this sphere was, it had the team on edge. Dr. Zinyi Lan's voice broke the silence, thoughtful yet tinged with unease. Captain, the sphere's emissions, this pulsation, is more than a simple energy signature. It's a language. She tapped a few keys, highlighting sections of the data. These patterns here, they repeat with subtle changes. It's not random. It's almost like communication. Captain Marin took in her words, feeling a new weight settle on his shoulders. If this thing is communicating, then it's likely aware of us. We need to figure out what it's trying to tell us. Commander Soliman, arms crossed and eyes narrowed, interjected, "With all due respect, Captain, we should consider the risk. We don't know if this message, or whatever it is, could be hostile. For all we know, it could be sending for backup." Dr. Lan shook her head, her expression determined. "The energy is steady, calm. Hostile communication would have a different pattern. Spikes, surges. This is measured, deliberate." She glanced at the others. "It's like it's waiting for a response." A murmur rippled through the room as the implications sank in. Arjun, who had been poring over the equipment readings, looked up with a spark in his eye. "What if we respond? We have the tech to create a frequency close to what the heart is emitting. It could be risky, but if it's trying to communicate, maybe it would recognize an echo of its own signal." Captain Marin considered this, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. "We don't engage it fully. Not yet. Arjun, prepare a controlled transmission. Let's send a low-frequency echo and see if it reacts." With a determined nod, Arjun adjusted his equipment, setting the transmission to match the sphere's wavelength as closely as possible without overwhelming it. The team watched in tense anticipation as he activated the signal, sending out a faint pulse that echoed the alien heart's steady rhythm. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien heart's glow remained constant, pulsing as it had before. But then, slowly, the light intensified, growing in brightness until it filled the room with an otherworldly glow. The pulsing pattern shifted, the rhythm altering into something faster, almost urgent. The screens around them flickered, showing new data as the sphere responded to their signal. "It's reacting," Dr. Lan whispered, her gaze fixed on the changing data. "It knows we're here. It's listening." Captain Marin nodded, feeling a surge of excitement mixed with apprehension. "What's it saying?" Dr. Lan's fingers flew over the console, analyzing the incoming signals. "It's complex. This isn't just data. It's information. Patterns within patterns." She paused, her eyes widening as she realized something. "Captain, I think it's sending us coordinates, directions to something deeper below the ice." Commander Soliman's face tightened, a familiar wariness taking over. "You're saying it's inviting us further in?" Dr. Lan nodded, her voice filled with awe. "If I'm reading this right, then yes, it wants us to follow it." Captain Marin let out a slow breath, weighing the implications. "The heart, if it has intelligence, a purpose, then it might be leading us somewhere significant. This isn't just an object, it's a guide." Commander Soliman cleared her throat, grounding the team back to the reality of their mission. "Captain, I understand the curiosity here, but we're risking our safety for something we don't fully understand. An invitation doesn't mean it's safe." Arjun leaned forward, eyes gleaming with the thrill of discovery. "Commander, I know the risks, But we can't ignore this. This is exactly why we're out here, to explore the unknown, to answer these kinds of questions. Captain Marin raised a hand, quieting the room. We proceed with caution. I want a small team, fully equipped, to investigate these coordinates. Commander Suleiman, you'll oversee the security detail. Dr. Lan and Arjun, you're with me. With the decision made, the team quickly gathered their gear, each one aware of the heightened tension. As they prepared to descend, the coordinates from the alien heart led them to a narrow passageway extending deeper below the ice. This area had not shown up on any prior scans, almost as if it had been hidden until the sphere's signal had revealed it. The descent was darker, colder, and more treacherous than before. Their lights barely cut through the shadows, casting eerie reflections against the icy walls. The silence was heavy, the kind that presses down on you and makes you feel as if you're not alone. Arjun's voice came through the comms, breaking the silence. The readings are stronger down here. It's like the heart's energy is somehow seeping through the ice. Stay close, everyone, Captain Marin ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. This is uncharted territory. We don't take any unnecessary risks. The narrow passageway eventually opened into a larger cavern, and the team stopped, their lights sweeping across a scene that took their breath away. In the center of the chamber, a second sphere floated, this one smaller, and emitting a soft golden glow. It pulsed in sync with the alien heart above, as if the two were connected, communicating across the icy barrier. Dr. Lan approached carefully, her scanner already recording the sight. This isn't just another artifact. It's connected to the heart above. It's like they're in harmony. A kind of resonance. Captain Marin stared at the glowing sphere, his mind racing with possibilities. The heart led us here, but why? What's the significance of this connection? Before anyone could respond, the golden sphere emitted a low hum, resonating through the cavern. The sound grew in intensity, becoming almost musical, a deep tone that vibrated through their bones. The team stood frozen, captivated by the eerie melody that seemed to echo with ancient wisdom and a sense of purpose they couldn't yet comprehend. Commander Suleiman, ever cautious, reached for her weapon instinctively, her eyes narrowing. Captain, we don't know what it's doing. We need to be ready for anything. Dr. Lan raised a hand, signaling calm. Wait. Listen to it. It's not threatening. It's welcoming. Captain Marin nodded, gesturing for the team to stand down. He took a cautious step closer to the golden sphere, his heart pounding as he reached out almost instinctively, his gloved hand hovering inches from its surface. As his hand neared, the sphere's glow intensified and the hum transformed, shifting into a voice. A single word whispered directly into his mind, clear and unmistakable. Welcome. The word resonated through him, leaving Captain Marin speechless. He turned to his team, eyes wide, realizing that their discovery had just taken on a new, staggering dimension. Whatever lay hidden beneath Europa's icy surface, they were no longer mere explorers. They were guests, and someone or something was waiting for them. As they returned to the base, Captain Marin's mind buzzed with the weight of their discovery. The whisper of welcome still echoed in his mind, an unsettling reminder that they were dealing with an intelligence, one that might be ancient, yet very much aware of their presence. He could see similar reflections in his team's faces, each of them quiet, lost in thought, as they tried to process what had happened. Once inside the control room, Dr. Lan immediately began analyzing the data they'd gathered from the golden sphere. Arjun was already sorting through the visual feeds, enhancing and cross-referencing them with their initial findings from the heart above. The rhythmic connection between the two spheres was unlike anything they'd seen, a resonance, as Dr. Lan had described it, that seemed to transcend physical boundaries. Commander Suleiman leaned against the wall, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on Captain Marin. Sir, we need to have a serious talk about protocol here. We don't know what we're dealing with. We're in the middle of a game with rules we can't even begin to understand. Captain Marin nodded, understanding her concern. I get it, Commander. This situation has gone far beyond what we prepared for, but we're here to explore, and that means following the evidence, even when it's uncomfortable. She held his gaze, her expression hard but respectful. We have a duty to ensure that whatever we find here doesn't endanger the team or Earth. We all know the risks, he replied evenly, but we also know the potential rewards. If this intelligence truly wants to communicate, we might be standing at the threshold of one of humanity's greatest discoveries. Dr. Lan looked up from her screen, her eyes filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. Captain, there's more. I've been analyzing the data from the golden sphere, and it's broadcasting information, not just signals but encoded data streams. Captain Marin's brow furrowed as he stepped closer to the monitor. Encoded? What kind of information are we talking about? She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. It's complex, multi-layered, but from what I can decipher, it looks like it could be records, logs, memories, perhaps even a form of history. Arjun's eyes widened with excitement. You mean it's sharing its story with us, like an archive? Dr. Lan nodded slowly. It's possible. If this is indeed a repository of information, then we're not just dealing with an artifact. We're dealing with a legacy, a record of something far older than humanity, possibly even older than Earth itself. The room fell silent as each team member grappled with the magnitude of her words. The idea that they could be accessing a historical record from an alien civilization was exhilarating and terrifying. Commander Soliman broke the silence, her voice calm but laced with urgency. We need to approach this carefully. If these artifacts have been dormant for so long, they might have been protecting something, or perhaps waiting for the right moment, or the right people, to find them. Captain Marin nodded thoughtfully. We don't activate or engage anything without analyzing it thoroughly. Let's start by isolating these data streams. Arjun, I want you and Dr. Lan to break down the encoded information piece by piece, find patterns, anything that might tell us more about what we're dealing with. Arjun and Dr. Lan immediately began their work, leaning over the consoles as lines of alien code streamed across the monitors. The encrypted data was dense, each line requiring intense focus and decryption to decipher. It was an intricate puzzle, with each piece adding a layer to the mystery of the alien heart and its golden counterpart. Hours passed in the cramped control room as Arjun and Dr. Lan worked tirelessly, occasionally exchanging ideas in hushed tones. The rest of the team took turns monitoring external conditions, maintaining the base's systems, and watching for any signs of activity from the spheres. Every now and then, the quiet hum of equipment would be interrupted by a spark of excitement or a breakthrough in the code. Finally, as fatigue weighed on everyone, Dr. Lan straightened up, her face lit with a mixture of astonishment and disbelief. Captain, I think we've got something. The data we've managed to decode so far, it's pointing to an ancient structure below Europa's surface. It's massive, far larger than anything we've seen here so far. Captain Marin's heart raced as he leaned in, examining the coordinates and schematics now displayed on the monitor. The structure appeared to be buried deep within the ice, at a depth they hadn't even thought to scan. This structure, what exactly are we looking at? Dr. Lan shook her head, her gaze fixed on the screen. It's impossible to say with certainty, but from the looks of these schematics, it could be a central hub, a kind of command center for the artifacts. Commander Soliman's eyes narrowed. And what would that mean for us? Arjun looked up from his monitor, his voice soft but filled with conviction. It means we've only scratched the surface. There's a network of connections here, something far bigger than just two artifacts. Whatever lies beneath could be the key to understanding this intelligence fully. Captain Marin felt a shiver of anticipation run through him. This mission, which had started as a simple survey, was evolving into a profound journey of discovery, a journey that might redefine everything they knew about alien life and advanced civilizations. If this is a command center, we need to see it with our own eyes, but we can't rush in unprepared. He turned to Commander Suleiman, his expression resolute. Commander, I want the security detail ready for a deeper expedition. We go in equipped for every possible contingency. Commander Suleiman nodded, her usual skepticism softened by a glimmer of respect. Understood, Captain. I'll ensure our team is prepared for anything, but we proceed with extreme caution. I don't trust these artifacts to be entirely benign. Captain Marin looked back at the monitor, his mind racing with possibilities. This could be the discovery of a lifetime, or a trap set by an intelligence far beyond our comprehension. Either way, we can't turn back now. The team assembled in the main chamber of the base, each member going through their final checks and preparations for the descent. This time they carried specialized equipment designed for unknown environments, enhanced thermal scanners, reinforced excavation tools, and communication relays that would keep them in contact with the surface no matter how deep they went. Captain Marin and Dr. Lan led the group, their hearts pounding as they entered the passageway once more, following the coordinates embedded in the alien data. The atmosphere was tense, each step deeper into Europa's icy interior marked by the increasing sense that they were venturing into uncharted territory, both scientifically and existentially. As they moved deeper, the icy walls seemed to close in around them, the cold seeping through their suits despite the enhanced insulation. The silence was profound, broken only by the crunch of their boots and the faint hum of their equipment. Yet the energy from the alien heart was palpable, a faint warmth that seemed to guide them onward, as if urging them closer to the secrets it guarded. At last, They reached a vast cavern, their lights revealing a network of shimmering structures embedded within the ice. Towers and pillars of alien material rose from the ground, forming an intricate labyrinth that spiraled downward into the darkness. In the center of it all was an enormous crystalline structure, glowing faintly with the same pulsing rhythm as the spheres. Dr. Lan's voice was barely a whisper, her awe tangible. This is it, the command center, the heart of it all. Captain Marin took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on the enigmatic structure. He could feel the weight of their discovery pressing down on him, a realization that they were standing in the presence of something far greater than themselves, a legacy. A relic, a connection to a civilization that had existed long before humanity took its first steps. With a mixture of fear and reverence, he stepped forward, ready to confront the secrets that lay waiting in the heart of Europa. The cavern loomed before them, vast and surreal, bathed in the crystalline glow of the alien structure at its center. Captain Marin led his team carefully down the sloping ice, their movements cautious as they approached the massive command center, each one acutely aware of the historical significance of every step they took. They were not just explorers now, they were interlopers in an ancient alien domain that seemed to pulse with a quiet, powerful intelligence. Arjun's voice crackled through the comms, his awe barely contained. "Captain, the material here, it's like nothing we've seen. These structures are dense but lightweight, almost like they're grown rather than built. It's as if the whole chamber is alive in a sense." Captain Marin nodded, captivated by the strange alien architecture that spiraled around them, each piece fitting seamlessly with the next. The entire chamber felt as though it was carefully crafted to harmonize with its surroundings, seamlessly integrated into the icy heart of Europa. Dr. Lan moved forward, scanning one of the nearby pillars, her visor displaying a series of readings. "This material is resonating with the same frequency as the alien heart. Whatever energy it's harnessing, it's connected to the spheres we encountered. We're not just looking at individual artifacts, we're looking at a system, a unified network." Commander Soliman maintained a vigilant stance, her weapon ready but lowered, her eyes sweeping over the vast space with a mixture of wonder and caution. "Captain, I still don't like this. There's an intelligence behind all of this, something that's been here for eons, waiting. We need to tread carefully." Captain Marin acknowledged her concern with a brief nod. "Understood, Commander. We proceed with respect and caution. This is beyond any protocol or precedent. We're on our own out here, and we can't afford mistakes." As they moved deeper into the chamber, Arjun's scanner detected faint symbols carved into the central structure, glimmering in the soft light. He quickly adjusted his visor to enhance the visual, bringing the markings into sharper focus. "Captain, take a look at these symbols. They're ancient, but they seem familiar, almost like a universal language, something designed to be understood across different forms of intelligence." Dr. Lan leaned closer, examining the symbols with keen interest. If this is indeed a universal language, then it was likely intended for any intelligent being who stumbled upon it. This could be a welcome message, a warning, or even instructions, but deciphering it is going to be a challenge. Captain Marin took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "Then let's begin. Document everything. If there's a message here, we need to find out what it says." Arjun activated a projection device, scanning the symbols and creating a holographic rendering that allowed them to view the markings from multiple angles. The team gathered around, studying the patterns in silence, each of them sensing that they were on the brink of uncovering something extraordinary. After several minutes, Dr. Lan spoke, her voice filled with conviction. "I think I recognize the structure of the symbols. There's a logic here, a rhythm that mirrors the patterns we observed from the alien heart. It's as if they're trying to guide us toward understanding, step by step." Arjun nodded, quickly inputting a series of commands that began to map the symbols to known mathematical sequences. "If we align these with base frequency patterns, we might get something resembling a readable sequence. It's a long shot, but worth a try." As they worked, the room seemed to shift, a low hum rising from the center of the chamber, reverberating through the air like the resonance of a tuning fork. The crystalline structure pulsed with light, its glow intensifying until it bathed the entire chamber in an ethereal brightness. Captain Marin instinctively raised a hand to shield his eyes, as a series of holographic projections emerged from the structure, floating in the air around them like spectral images from a distant past. The team stared in awe as scenes unfolded before them, visions of landscapes, alien skies, and strange bioluminescent plants swaying under foreign stars. The projections shifted, showing a world that seemed both familiar and alien, a thriving ecosystem that pulsed with life and harmony. Each image faded into the next, like pages from a storybook brought to life. Dr. Lan's eyes widened, her voice trembling with excitement. "These are memories, records of a civilization's history. They're showing us everything." Commander Suleiman tensed, her gaze darting between the projections. "Are they showing us history? Or something they want us to see? How do we know this isn't a lure?" Captain Marin placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "We don't, but whatever this is, it's a glimpse into something vast and ancient. We have to trust that this intelligence wants to be understood, even if we don't fully grasp its motives yet." The images continued to shift, revealing glimpses of towering structures, crystalline formations, and beings of light that moved in harmony with their environment. The last image lingered, showing a group of these beings gathered around a sphere similar to the alien heart. They seemed to be engaged in some form of ritual, their hands extended in a gesture of unity. The image flickered and then faded, leaving the team in silence as the light in the chamber dimmed to its original glow. Dr. Lon took a shaky breath, trying to process the vision they'd just witnessed. This wasn't just a display, it was a message. They were showing us their culture, their values. They lived in balance with their world, with a reverence for life. Captain Marin felt a pang of understanding, a recognition of something profound. It's as if they're asking us to do the same, to approach this discovery with respect and caution. Arjun glanced at the central structure, his face reflective. Maybe this was their way of preserving their legacy. They knew they wouldn't last forever, so they left a record, hoping someone would find it and carry forward their ideals. Commander Suleiman's expression softened, her skepticism easing as she absorbed the significance of what they'd seen. Then maybe it's not just a matter of discovery. Maybe it's stewardship. If they entrusted this knowledge to us, we have a responsibility to safeguard it. Captain Marin nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. That's exactly it. This isn't just another scientific mission. We're here to understand, to learn, and to protect this legacy. Whatever happens, we can't let this fall into the wrong hands. The hum from the central structure faded, leaving the chamber quiet once more, the only light coming from the ambient glow of the alien architecture around them. Dr. Lon approached the crystalline structure again, placing a gloved hand gently on its surface, almost as if in reverence. "We need to send this information back to Earth. If humanity is to understand, they need to see what we've seen." Captain Marin considered her words, knowing the implications. Sharing this discovery would ignite a firestorm of interest and controversy back on Earth, but it was also essential if they were to honor the trust that had been placed in them. "We'll transmit a report to command," he decided, "but only the essentials for now. No details on the structure or its location. We need to keep this safe until we understand exactly what we're dealing with." Commander Suleiman nodded in agreement. "We have to protect this place, Captain. It's more than just a find. It's a treasure, a link to something greater than ourselves." The team lingered for a moment longer, each one lost in their own thoughts, awed by the weight of the responsibility that had been laid upon them. They were not just explorers now. They were guardians of a legacy far older and wiser than their own. And as they prepared to leave the chamber, Captain Marin knew that their journey was only beginning, that the path ahead would demand all of their strength, wisdom, and unity. As they ascended through the icy passageway back to the base, he cast a final look at the crystalline command center, feeling a silent promise within him, a promise to honor the knowledge they had been given, and to protect it for future generations, whatever the cost. Back at the base, Captain Marin and his team worked tirelessly to analyze and secure the information they had gathered. Every new layer of data from the alien command center felt like a piece of a larger puzzle, each piece fitting together to reveal not just a story, but a vision, a guide to sustainable coexistence that the alien civilization had embedded in their legacy. It was becoming clear that the alien heart wasn't merely a relic, but a powerful testament to their values, a call to any civilization that might discover it to embrace similar ideals. The team's sense of purpose was palpable, and even Commander Suleiman, usually the first to voice caution, seemed swept up in the excitement. Still, her instincts for security had not dulled. As the rest of the team analyzed data, she made sure their defenses were in place, reviewing each layer of protection surrounding the command center and their base. But that evening, as the team gathered to review their findings, a flashing alert broke the quiet hum of the control room. The comms unit lit up with an urgent message from command, the blue icon flashing insistently. Marin moved to answer, his heart racing. They hadn't transmitted their full findings yet, only the basics of what they had encountered. "Command to Captain Marin," came the steady voice of Admiral Grant, one of Earth's senior military strategists. whose calm tone did little to mask the urgency in his voice. "Captain, we have reason to believe that your discovery has leaked. We're picking up chatter from multiple factions across Earth. Some are referring to a relic on Europa with potential power. It appears some of your preliminary reports have been intercepted." Captain Marin exchanged a worried look with Commander Soliman, who immediately moved to enhance the base's security protocols. "Understood, Admiral, but we only transmitted basic information, nothing that could identify the location or true nature of the command center. How could this have happened?" The Admiral sighed. "We're still investigating the breach, but the stakes have changed. There are private corporations, rival governments, and even unsanctioned groups who might be willing to do whatever it takes to get their hands on what you found. You need to be prepared, Captain. Reinforcements are on standby, but it will take days for them to reach you." Marin nodded, his mind already racing through scenarios. "We'll secure the site and prepare for the possibility of an intrusion. Until your reinforcements arrive, we'll hold the line." As he ended the transmission, Marin felt a heavy weight settle over him. The discovery of the alien heart and command center had opened a gateway to knowledge beyond anything Earth had known, but it had also opened a door to greed, fear, and exploitation. He turned to Commander Soliman, her face set in a grim expression. "We're not alone out here anymore," she said, her voice low. "If word's gotten out, it won't be long before someone tries to test our defenses." Captain Marin met her gaze, his jaw set. "Then we do what we have to do. We protect this place. This knowledge isn't just ours. It belongs to all humanity, and we can't let it fall into the wrong hands." He turned to the rest of the team, his voice steady. "From this moment on, we're on full alert. Dr. Lan, Arjun, continue analyzing the data, but stay within the inner perimeter. Commander, prepare defense positions and double the watch rotation. No one approaches the command center without clearance." They moved quickly, the tension sharpening their focus as they prepared for a potential threat. Arjun set up signal jammers and cloaking devices to obscure the base from outside scanners, while Commander Suleiman distributed tactical equipment to each team member. As night fell over the frozen landscape of Europa, the base became a fortress, its lights dimmed, its defenses ready. Hours passed in quiet vigilance, each member alert, their eyes scanning the screens and the surrounding icy plains for any sign of movement. The silence was tense, broken only by the steady hum of the base's power systems and the occasional, reassuring check-ins over the comms. But in the early hours of the morning, a disturbance appeared on the radar, a faint blip at first, almost too small to notice. Arjun's voice broke through the silence, his tone tight with worry. "Captain, I'm picking up an unidentified object approaching from the east. It's keeping low, hugging the surface. Whatever it is, it's not ours." Captain Marin felt a surge of adrenaline as he moved to the radar console, watching the small, flickering dot move closer. "How fast is it moving?" "Slowly," Arjun replied, "almost like it's testing our perimeter, seeing if it can get close without triggering anything." Commander Soliman's voice was cold and controlled. "They're trying to figure out our defenses. We can't let them get too close." Marin nodded, his mind running through the options. "Arjun, activate the outer defensive drones. We need to make it clear that this isn't friendly territory." The team watched as Arjun keyed in commands, and a series of automated drones activated, their lights flashing as they hovered just outside the perimeter. The unidentified object hesitated, then veered off, disappearing from their radar. For the moment they were safe, but the message was clear. They were being watched, tested. Captain Marin felt a chill, not just from the cold of Europa, but from the realization that they were now in a silent standoff with forces unknown. The following day passed with the team on constant alert, each member divided between maintaining their defenses and continuing to decode the alien data. Despite the threat, the mystery of the alien command center continued to unfold. Dr. Lan and Arjun worked in tandem, each breakthrough bringing new insights into the alien civilization's knowledge. Their latest discovery was a series of encoded instructions, guidelines that seemed to outline methods for ecological balance and resource renewal, concepts that could revolutionize Earth's approach to environmental sustainability. But even these revelations were shadowed by the impending danger. Commander Soliman maintained a rigorous watch schedule, rotating the team through shifts to ensure they were always prepared for another attempt at intrusion. The mood in the base was tense, each member aware that they were guarding something not only valuable, but potentially transformative. Late in the evening, just as Captain Marin was about to rotate out of his shift, another alert sounded. This time the radar showed multiple contacts, approaching from different directions, moving in a coordinated pattern. Commander Soliman's voice was sharp over the comms. "Captain, we've got multiple hostiles incoming. They're trying to breach from all sides." Captain Marin clenched his jaw, his mind racing. "Prepare the perimeter defenses. I want the drones on a tight loop, and no one fires unless they breach the inner barrier. If they're here to test us, we need to show them we're ready." The team moved into action, taking up positions around the base, their weapons ready, their expressions focused. Outside, the perimeter drones whirred into motion, creating a protective ring around the base. The unidentified objects slowed as they approached, hesitant as if considering their options. But then, suddenly, they surged forward, a coordinated attempt to penetrate the defenses. The drones responded instantly, firing controlled bursts of energy that forced the intruders back, their lights flashing against the darkness of the icy plains. The sound of distant impacts echoed through the base, each one a reminder of the fragility of their situation. Captain Marin's voice was calm, his resolve unshaken. "Hold the line. This isn't over yet." The team held firm, fending off the attackers in a tense standoff that lasted well into the night. By the time the hostiles withdrew, Europa's frozen landscape was littered with remnants of the skirmish, a stark reminder of the stakes they faced. As dawn broke over the base, Captain Marin looked out over the silent plains, his mind filled with determination. They had won this round, but he knew the real battle had just begun. The aftermath of the skirmish left the base quiet but tense, a silence charged with the knowledge that their discovery on Europa had attracted dangerous attention. Captain Marin stood near the observation window, looking out over the icy plains where the remnants of the attackers' equipment lay scattered, half buried in frost. In that vast frozen landscape, it was hard to believe they had faced such an intense attack mere hours ago. Commander Soliman joined him, her posture rigid, eyes sharp as she surveyed the damage. "Captain, we need to assume this was just a warning. They're testing us, gauging our response." Captain Marin nodded, his expression hard. "And they're learning that we're not going to back down. But we're only a small team here, Commander. Reinforcements from Earth are still days away. We have to assume that if they come again, they'll come in greater numbers." A faint crackle over the comms interrupted them, and Arjun's voice filtered through, laced with both curiosity and urgency. "Captain, Dr. Lan and I just uncovered something strange. You'd better come to the lab." Captain Marin exchanged a quick look with Soliman, and they made their way to the lab, where Arjun and Dr. Lan stood over the data monitors, both visibly animated. A series of holographic symbols and diagrams floated in the air, each one more intricate than the last. "What have you found?" Marin asked, stepping closer. Dr. Lan tapped a section of the display, her eyes wide with wonder. "We've been decoding the latest data from the alien command center and, well, it looks like we're not alone in this system." Captain Marin frowned, leaning in to examine the symbols. "What do you mean?" Arjun explained. "The command center's logs include references to an ancient network, a series of installations across multiple moons in this sector. This wasn't just a standalone artifact. It was part of a larger system." Commander Soliman crossed her arms, skeptical. "A system designed for what? Surveillance?" Dr. Lan shook her head. "No, it's more than that. The logs suggest it's a protective network. These installations were designed to monitor and safeguard planetary ecosystems. They weren't watching for intruders. They were ensuring stability." Captain Marin's mind raced, the implications settling over him. "So there's a chance that other artifacts like the alien heart are out there, on different moons, all with a similar purpose?" Arjun nodded, excitement lighting up his face. "Exactly. And there's more. We found references to a hidden node, an installation that acts as the central hub for the network. If we can find it, it might give us control over the entire system." Commander Soliman's expression shifted, a spark of hope in her eyes. "If we could access the hub, we'd have a tactical advantage. Whoever's trying to take this base won't stand a chance if we can tap into that network." Captain Marin nodded, his decision made. "Then we find this central hub. If it's active, it might give us the support we need to protect this discovery. And ourselves." Dr. Lan quickly brought up the coordinates embedded in the logs, indicating a location far beneath the ice, deeper than any point they had explored. The prospect was daunting, but the team knew they had no other option. This was their chance, not only to secure the base, but also to understand the true scope of the legacy they had uncovered. Hours later, the team assembled in the cavernous chamber, where the alien command center still pulsed softly, a reminder of the silent intelligence they were working to protect. With gear in hand, they prepared for a descent that would take them deeper into Europa's frozen core, further than any mission had ever ventured. As they moved through the narrow tunnels, their lights cutting through the icy darkness, Dr. Lan kept her gaze fixed on her scanner, watching for any sign of the node. "The readings are intensifying. We're getting closer." The team continued in silence, their breaths visible in the freezing air, each step taking taking them closer to the unknown. The walls around them began to change, glistening with a strange, crystalline material that seemed almost to hum in response to their presence. "Captain," Arjun's voice was tense but steady. "This material, it's not just ice. It's some kind of conductive crystal, likely a conduit for the network's energy. If the node is active, it might respond to our movements." As if in answer, the ground beneath them shuddered slightly, and a faint glow began to emanate from the crystalline walls, illuminating their path with a ghostly blue light. The team stopped, watching in awe as the walls pulsed, a soft, rhythmic beat that matched the alien heart's frequency. Commander Soliman tightened her grip on her weapon, her voice low. "If this is the hub's doing, it's aware of us." Dr. Lan nodded, her face thoughtful. "Or it's responding to the resonance from the heart. This whole structure feels alive, like it's connected to every other part of the network." Captain Marin led them forward, the glow intensifying with each step, guiding them deeper until they reached a vast chamber where a massive, circular platform hovered above the ground, suspended in the air by unseen forces. In the center of the platform stood a monolithic structure, its surface covered in symbols that glowed faintly, pulsing in sync with the crystal walls. "This must be it," Marin said, his voice filled with reverence. "The hub of the network." Dr. Lan approached carefully, her scanner running continuously, the readings flowing rapidly. "The energy here is incredible. If we can connect with it, we might be able to unlock the network's full potential." Arjun stepped forward, adjusting his equipment. "Let me try interfacing with it. If this works, we could have access to the entire system." As he activated the interface, a wave of energy radiated from the hub, passing through the team and filling the chamber with a resonant hum. The symbols on the monolith glowed brighter, and a series of holographic screens appeared, showing various locations across the system, each one marked by a similar structure, each one part of the protective network. Commander Soliman exhaled, her eyes wide. This is incredible. The network isn't just on Europa. It extends across several moons. It's a defense system, maybe even a communication network. Captain Marin watched as the screens displayed detailed maps of the surrounding moons, each one connected by lines of energy that converged on Europa. This was all set up to monitor and protect. Whoever created this system was invested in the stability of this entire sector. Dr. Lan studied the readings with awe. This isn't just a network. It's a blueprint, a guide for maintaining harmony across planets, balancing ecosystems. It's as if they designed this as a gift, left for anyone who could understand its importance. But even as they took in the wonder of the network, a sudden alert flashed across the screens. A warning signal pulsed red, and the projections shifted to show a new series of blips moving toward their base. More intruders, and in larger numbers. Commander Soliman's expression darkened. "They're coming back, and they're not alone this time." Captain Marin's gaze hardened as he turned to the hub. "If we have control of the network, we might be able to use its defenses to shield the base." Arjun quickly worked the controls, trying to access the system's security protocols. "I'm in, Captain. It's responding, but it's going to take a moment to align the defenses." As he spoke, the crystal walls around them brightened, the light intensifying as if the entire structure was coming to life. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the air as the network began to respond to their commands. Outside, the drones guarding the base received new instructions, their movements more synchronized, faster, as the network coordinated their actions. Commander Soliman took her position by the entrance, her weapon ready. "If they get through, we'll hold them off until you can activate the defenses." Captain Marin nodded, steeling himself. "We're not just defending a discovery now, we're protecting a legacy, a vision for the future. Let's make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." As the team braced themselves, the hub pulsed with energy, sending out waves of protection that rippled across the moon's icy surface. The network was alive, and with each beat, it seemed to echo their determination, a silent ally, standing with them against the coming storm. The hum of the network's energy pulsed through the icy depths of Europa as the team took their positions around the central hub. Captain Marin stood at the control panel with Arjun, watching the symbols and readouts flicker across the display. Outside, the drones circled the base in tighter formation, now guided by the ancient system that had remained dormant until today. Commander Soliman adjusted her grip on her weapon, her gaze fixed on the entrance to the cavern. "Captain, any sign of how close they are?" Arjun tapped the console, bringing up a series of projections that showed the surrounding terrain. Bright red markers lit up on the map, moving steadily toward the base. "They're advancing in formation. Whoever's out there isn't just a ragtag team. They're organized. Captain Marin took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on him. This isn't just about protecting ourselves anymore. We're defending knowledge that could reshape everything we know. We hold our ground, no matter what. Dr. Lan, standing next to the monolithic structure, was still transfixed by the network's complexity. She glanced over at Captain Marin, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the hub. Captain, this network, if we can fully activate it, it might be able to do more than just control the drones. There are references here to environmental stabilization and defensive fields. This wasn't just a communication network, it was a protective system. Marin's eyes narrowed as he processed her words. Are you saying this system could defend itself? Dr. Lan nodded, a flicker of excitement crossing her face. Yes, if we can figure out how to trigger those functions, but the code is dense. It's going to take time. Commander Soliman's voice cut in, steady and unwavering. Then let's buy you that time. They're almost here. Arjun continued to work the controls, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. I'm rerouting more power to the defensive drones. We should be able to keep them in a tighter, more responsive formation. The first of the attackers appeared on the screen, shadowy figures moving through the dim light, their movements cautious as they approached the outer perimeter. The team watched as the drones hovered, waiting silently like guardians at the edge of the base. They're probing our defenses, Commander Soliman muttered, testing our response. Captain Marin clenched his jaw, feeling the tension build. They're about to get one. As the first of the intruders stepped into range, the drones sprang into action, firing controlled bursts of energy that lit up the darkness. The attackers scrambled, but the network-coordinated drones were relentless, blocking every approach. The intruders fell back, retreating to the shadows as they reassessed their strategy. Arjun's eyes lit up as he watched the screen. The network's optimizing the drones' paths, adjusting based on their movements. It's almost like it's anticipating their actions. Commander Soliman grinned, her face hard with determination. Good, let's see if they're ready to dance. Outside, the attackers regrouped, this time sending forward larger, more heavily armored vehicles. The drones continued to engage, but Captain Marin could see the strain in their movements. The attackers were pushing forward, bit by bit, testing the limits of the drone's range and power. Arjun, any way we can boost the network's control? Marin asked, his voice tense. Arjun hesitated. It's at max capacity, but if we can tap into the hub's primary core, we might be able to access its original defensive systems. I'm talking energy shields, environmental controls, the kind of technology that's light years beyond our own. Dr. Lan glanced at the data readouts, her eyes widening as she recognized a pattern in the alien code. There's a failsafe embedded in here, Captain. The original creators designed this network to respond to extreme threats, but we need to trigger it intentionally. Without the right sequence, it won't activate. Marin's mind raced. What do we need to do? Dr. Lan's fingers flew over the console, inputting commands as she spoke. The symbols on the hub, there's a sequence. It's like a key, a passcode designed to awaken the network fully. But we have to be precise. Any deviation, and we risk shutting it down permanently. Commander Soliman took her position at the entrance, her gaze flicking between the advancing intruders and Dr. Lan. Then get it right, Doctor. We'll handle things up here. Captain Marin stepped back, watching as Dr. Lan worked through the complex symbols, her focus intense as she deciphered the activation sequence. Around them, the hum of the network grew louder, the entire cavern vibrating with energy. It was as if the network itself was waking up, anticipating the moment when it would be fully unleashed. Outside, the drones fought tirelessly, but the attackers were relentless, their numbers overwhelming. The perimeter was beginning to crack, and Marin knew they only had minutes left. Dr. Lan's face lit up as she entered the final sequence, her voice shaking with excitement and relief. Captain, it's ready. All I have to do is initiate the final command. Do it, Marin said, his voice a mix of urgency and hope. With a deep breath, Dr. Lan pressed the final sequence, and a surge of energy exploded from the hub, racing through the crystalline walls and out into the icy landscape. The entire moon seemed to tremble, and a bright blue light enveloped the base, stretching outward in a massive protective field. The attackers froze as the shield expanded, their vehicles bouncing back from the force. A ripple of shock ran through their ranks, confusion and fear evident as they realized they were facing a defense beyond anything they had anticipated. Commander Soliman's grin was fierce as she watched the attackers falter. That's right. Not so easy now, is it? The defensive field shimmered, creating a dome around the base that pulsed with a protective energy. The attackers attempted to breach it, firing weapons and ramming vehicles against the shield, but each attempt was repelled effortlessly. The network had come alive, responding with an intelligence and force that defied explanation. Captain Marin allowed himself a moment of relief, watching as the attackers retreated, their forces scattering as they realized they were no match for the ancient technology. The base was safe for now. Dr. Lan sagged with exhaustion but managed a triumphant smile. "We did it. The network's full defense system is operational. I don't think anyone's getting through that shield." Arjun laughed. His face lit up with exhilaration. "This is beyond anything we could have hoped for. The original creators, they must have faced threats of their own to design something this powerful." Commander Suleiman, still standing guard, turned back to Marin, her eyes filled with respect. "Captain, we couldn't have done this without trusting in what we found here. You made the right call." Captain Marin nodded, his heart pounding with both relief and awe. "This wasn't just our victory. The network, the heart, it's as if they wanted to be defended, like they recognized the need to protect themselves through us." Dr. Lan's voice was soft, filled with reverence. Perhaps this was their plan all along, to entrust this knowledge to those willing to protect it, to those who understood its value. As the protective field continued to shimmer, the team gathered around the hub, the weight of their victory settling over them. They were not merely guardians of an alien relic. They were the stewards of a legacy that stretched across time and space, a legacy entrusted to them by an intelligence that had vanished long ago. Captain Marin looked at each member of his team, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. They had survived, yes, but they had done more than that. They had earned the trust of a network that had safeguarded knowledge across millennia. And as they stood in that cavern, surrounded by the hum of the network and the fading light of Europa's icy landscape, Captain Marin knew that this was only the beginning. There were still secrets within the hub, still wonders left to uncover, and they would be there to discover each one, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The soft glow of Europa's dawn filtered through the icy walls, casting an otherworldly light over the team as they regrouped within the safety of the base. Captain Marin stood at the hub, his gaze fixed on the swirling symbols that pulsed across its surface. The network's defenses had held, repelling the intruders and safeguarding the alien technology. For now, but he knew this reprieve would not last. They had won a battle, not the war. Dr. Lan approached him, her eyes filled with a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. "Captain, I've been analyzing the network's response patterns. It wasn't just reacting to us, it was actively protecting its own integrity. This isn't just an artifact. It's a living system, designed to adapt and learn." Captain Marin nodded, understanding the significance of her words. The creators of this network must have faced threats themselves. They didn't just build a tool, they created something resilient, something that could defend itself and its purpose. Commander Suleiman joined them, her posture as rigid as ever, though her gaze had softened with newfound respect for the alien legacy they were guarding. "Captain, I've run a full scan of the perimeter. The attackers have retreated beyond our range, but I doubt they'll stay away for long. If they regroup with reinforcements, even this shield might not hold." Marin turned to face his team, their faces illuminated by the eerie blue glow of the hub. "Then we need to prepare. We can't keep relying on the network to protect us indefinitely. Earth's reinforcements are still days away, but we're not helpless here." Arjun looked up from his console, where he had been running diagnostics on the drones. "Captain, I think I've found a way to enhance the network's field using some of the dormant nodes on the surrounding moons. If we can link them up, we could extend the network's reach and create a perimeter defense. It would buy us more time, maybe even force our attackers to back off entirely." Dr. Lan's face lit up with excitement. "That's brilliant. The network was meant to span multiple moons. If we activate those nodes, we'd be restoring its full functionality, something it hasn't had in millennia." Captain Marin's decision was immediate. "Do it. Arjun, start the remote activation of the nodes, and Dr. Lan, assist him with calibrating the resonance frequencies. Commander Suleiman, reinforce our ground defenses. I want everyone prepared for whatever comes next." The team moved with precision and urgency, each member driven by a shared purpose that transcended the immediate danger. They weren't just soldiers or scientists anymore. They were guardians, entrusted with a relic that held untold wisdom, a link to an ancient civilization that had once thrived and protected these worlds. They felt the weight of their roles deeply, a responsibility that grounded them, even as it lifted their spirits. Hours passed as Arjun and Dr. Lan worked to activate the dormant nodes. Each one responded in kind, lighting up across the network like stars blinking into existence. The hub pulsed brighter with each activation, its energy resonating through the caverns, creating a web of light that connected the base to unseen points far across Europa's landscape. Arjun looked up, his eyes wide with awe as he watched the network come to life. "Captain, we're nearly there. Once the last node is online, the network network will have a radius of influence spanning the entire moon and beyond. We'll be able to detect and repel intruders before they even get close. Commander Soliman, who had been monitoring the perimeter, joined them, her gaze fixed on the pulsating glow of the hub. With this, we're not just defending ourselves. We're securing an entire legacy. Captain Marin felt a surge of pride as he looked around at his team, each of them fully committed to the mission. Then let's make it count. This is what we came here for, not just to discover but to protect, to honor the intelligence that entrusted us with this knowledge. As the final node activated, the hub emitted a low, resonant hum that filled the cavern, vibrating through the very ice around them. The protective field expanded, its reach extending far beyond the base, encompassing the entire landscape and creating a barrier that would repel any incoming threats. The network was fully awake now, its ancient defenses restored to their former power. But even as they took in this victory, a warning flashed on the console. Dr. Lan's face grew tense as she studied the readings. "Captain, we're picking up another signal. This one's much stronger than before. It's not just the initial attackers regrouping. This is a larger force, and they're moving in fast." Commander Soliman straightened, her jaw set. They must have realized what we activated. If they're sending this much firepower, they won't stop until they break through. Captain Marin took a deep breath, steadying himself. "Then we hold the line. This time, we're not just defending ourselves. We're defending the future, our future and the future of what was left here for us." Arjun's fingers flew over the controls, coordinating the drones and calibrating the field to handle the incoming assault. The network responded with incredible precision, the drones shifting into formation, each one amplifying the protective energy emanating from the hub. It was as though the network had become an extension of their will, a tool sharpened by their collective purpose. Outside, the first wave of attackers hit the expanded shield, their vehicles and weapons repelled by the energy field. Explosions lit up the icy landscape as the drones engaged, firing controlled pulses that disabled incoming threats with pinpoint accuracy. The attackers pushed harder, but the network's defenses held strong, each blow absorbed and redirected, as if the network itself had anticipated their every move. Inside, Captain Marin watched the battle unfold, his heart pounding as he realized the network's potential. This wasn't just a defense system, it was adaptive, learning from each encounter, adjusting to counter the attackers' tactics. He could feel its presence, a silent ally guiding them, empowering them. Commander Soliman's voice was firm, her respect for the network evident. "Captain, this system, it's like it's alive. It's reacting to them, countering each new attack as if it's reading their moves." Dr. Lan's face was filled with awe as she watched the symbols on the hub, each one pulsing in sync with the network's defensive maneuvers. This was their final gift, Captain. They left this here not just to protect their legacy, but to teach us how to do the same. Outside, the attackers began to retreat, their forces depleted, their attempts to breach the shield thwarted by the sheer resilience of the network. It was a hard-won victory, but it was theirs. As the last of the intruders disappeared from the radar, a sense of profound relief washed over the team. They had defended the legacy, protected the knowledge, and honored the responsibility that had been entrusted to them. Captain Marin looked around at his team, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "We did it. We're not just survivors. We're protectors of something much larger than ourselves." The network, sensing the return to calm, gradually powered down its active defenses, the shield retracting to its initial boundaries. The hum softened, the glow dimming to a gentle pulse, as if acknowledging their triumph. Dr. Lan stepped forward, placing her hand gently on the hub, a gesture of respect and gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her words carrying the weight of everything they had fought for. Captain Marin looked at his team, each member bound together by a shared experience that had transformed them. "From this day forward, we carry this knowledge back to Earth, not just as scientists, soldiers, or explorers, but as guardians of a legacy older and wiser than any of us. This is the start of a new chapter, not just for us, but for all humanity." They left the cavern with a quiet reverence, each step filled with a sense of purpose and unity. As they emerged from the depths of Europa, the icy landscape stretched out before them, stark and silent, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the profound responsibility they had embraced. The network's soft hum echoed behind them, a steady heartbeat of wisdom that would guide them as they ventured back to Earth, carrying with them a vision of what humanity could become, a civilization defined not just by power, but by respect, stewardship, and the courage to protect what truly mattered.